All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man, Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today, my guest is Jonathan Steele. I think you guys are going to like this episode. He's a lawyer. Please, Jonathan, tell a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a Chicago native. Well, let me back up. Thanks for having me on your show. It's an honor to be with you. I am a Chicago native. I'm a divorce and family law attorney based out of Chicago. I've been a partner at Bierman for about 6 years now. I've been practicing family law for uh, about 11 years at this point. So yeah, that's me.
In regards to family law, I think there's a component that you touch, particularly in regards to cybersecurity. Talk to us about that.
Sure. I started a privacy and cybersecurity consulting firm in around 2021. It's called Steele Fortress, and we provide consulting services to clients and small businesses about how to improve their cybersecurity. And there's a undeniable overlap between that field and the field of law that I find myself practicing in. Whether it's because somebody comes in at the infancy stage of a divorce case and they're pretty sure, and you can't convince them otherwise, that their spouse somehow has access to their data, their devices, their photos, their text messages, emails, you name it, location. And so they look to me for guidance on how to sort of unplug that access that their spouse has or that control that they have over their data.
Is it a big problem that you see in that area?
Whether it's paranoia or whether it's well-founded, it varies from person to person. But, a lot of families do share iCloud accounts. And so they do have shared photo albums. And, when you're taking pictures and you're sharing them, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook, sometimes you're not sure, who has visibility, who are your followers, whether your followers are connected to your spouse, whether you're uploading photos that have metadata attached to them, like your GPS coordinates, or your, time and date that you took the photo, or the kind of camera that you took it on. A lot of data comes along with the photos itself. And, as we become more and more entrenched in this digital universe we're in, the problem is growing. So it is a problem and it's growing.
What would be the potential threats right now in regards to cybersecurity?
More globally, I'd say the most common is going to be phishing attacks. And that's when you get an email that looks to be from a legitimate source, but you dig a little deeper, maybe because you had some suspicion about, somebody giving you a deadline. I need you to act fast. I need you to send money now. I need you to respond or click this link right now. And then you dig a little deeper and you look at the actual sender beyond just the sender name, and you look at the sender address and you see, well, gee, that doesn't look familiar to me. I don't think American Express would be emailing me from a Gmail account. And so then you click the link and maybe you downloaded malware. Maybe you went to a website that looked legitimate and you entered your username and password, and now you've given it to the person that sent you the email. So more globally, I think phishing is probably the most common. Second to that would probably be what's called business email compromise. So for instance, at my law firm, I might get an email that looks to be from the managing partner. And similar to phishing, the name might be matching the managing partner, but the sender address doesn't. And it may ask me, are you in the office today? I need you to hop on my computer and wire money out of the account to this account. I need you to do it fast, because they're preying on, your psychological condition of, not only is this the boss, but he's asking me to do something now, and so I don't have a lot of time to think. And so, the common defense to that, beyond just training employees to look for red flags, is to tell people to slow down. It's going to be rare that you need to act as fast as the email is telling you to act. And so slowing down, evaluating it, maybe get up and walk away from your computer, think about whether or not this has actually happened before, and then verify. If you're getting an email from someone and it's asking you to do something, verify through another channel, whether that's a text message, whether that's a phone call, whether that's walking down to their office in person. just confirm with them. And you may think you're annoying them, you're not acting as fast as they want, but they're going to appreciate your being vigilant. So I'd say business email compromise and phishing are going to be the most prevalent of cybersecurity risks at the moment.
Any special cases that you remember in regards to a case that happened?
There's in general, I'm trying more and more orders of protection cases right now that involve some sort of cyber stalking, or they involve some sort of harassment, either by text message, phone call, whatever. And up until the last 5 or so years, it was pretty easy to tie those text messages or those phone calls to the person that sent or called. Because they're calling from a phone number that you can trace. You can subpoena the cellular provider that provides the phone number of the sender, and you can do some digging. But now more and more, what people are doing is they're getting smarter about how to harass people, and what they're doing is they're using VoIP numbers or voice over IP numbers. So the most common example of that would be something like a Google Voice, but there's other alternatives. There's Cloaked, there's MySudo. And those are generally good apps for privacy and security, but like any tool, it can have a good use and it can have a bad use. And so sometimes now in orders of protection cases, when I'm representing the petitioner, the petitioner is getting text messages from a VoIP phone number that's pretty hard to trace. Even if you were to somehow get cooperation from law enforcement to issue a subpoena to MySudo or Google, it's hard to trace those. You're looking to an IP address that's accessing the application. You're looking to an email address that was used to register the VoIP number. And sometimes people are using burner email addresses. So you're hitting a dead end. And so people are needing to get more innovative in terms of how to tie those cases to the person sending the text. And sometimes, they'll make your job easy for you. Sometimes they'll give you circumstantial evidence and say, you were the worst boyfriend ever. Okay, well, then it's probably pretty clear that the person that sent that, even though it came from a burner number, was the girlfriend. But sometimes people they're smarter, and they just say just generally threatening and pejorative things in a text, and you may be hard pressed to try to tie that to the respondent. So in terms of common cases that I'm seeing at the moment, it's running into that issue, both on the petitioner side of it as well as on the respondent side of it.
So when it comes to mobile, how can we protect ourselves?
There's a few different ways. Similar threats that you face on a desktop or a laptop, you're going to face on mobile devices. So you're going to have phishing threats, and they're going to hope that you're going to click a link on your mobile device. And there's apps that help to mitigate this. There's something like Lookout, whether it's through your employer and it's Lookout for work, or whether it's a personal license and it's just Lookout. That does a good job of intercepting the traffic coming out of your device. And if it's destined for a malicious link, it'll block it. It won't let you access that website or that link. So Lookout does a good job of that. There's other options. Sophos does a good job of it. They have an intercept product for both Android and iOS devices. And then, there's other sorts of DNS filtering products, whether it's attached to a VPN or not. There's NextDNS, there's Control D, there's services like Proton VPN have malware filtering. And all these different services, you download them to your device. It's basically a toggle that you turn on, and most of them will do a good job of intercepting traffic that's destined for at least a known malicious website. The problem more so is going to be if it's a new website that one of these services hasn't seen before. It's a 0-day, then they're not going to do a great job of it, but it is going to do a good job of protecting you from known threats.
Is it dangerous to answer when it comes to mobile? Is it dangerous to answer phone numbers that you don't know?
I generally don't. Sometimes what they're looking for is for you to say yes. They'll ask you, is this so-and-so? And they're just looking for you to say the word yes. And then they can use your voice for mobile banking. And then you're in a problem. Um, I generally don't answer numbers I don't recognize. I generally don't answer text messages that I don't recognize the sender. I don't answer emails where I don't recognize the sender. Um, and maybe that's just me being overly cautious, but nowadays there's fewer and fewer phone calls, to be honest. Like people are using text messages, they're using whether it's iMessage, Signal message, whatever. I just get fewer phone calls. And if I am getting a phone call, it's from somebody that I recognize. And you're seeing, I think it's called neighbor spoofing, where some of these malicious phone calls, whether they're to gain information from you or do whatever they want to do, they're coming from the area code that your phone number is based to make it look more legitimate. But I don't, even if it's coming from the area code of my phone number, I don't answer if I don't recognize it. Anybody that needs to get a hold of me will leave a voicemail and I'll call back. I personally use a call filtering app like RoboKiller to do a good job of filtering out the daily phone calls that I get from, the political campaigns asking me to vote for them. The the calls that are telling me that my social security number is being sued and that I need to wire money right now or I'm going to get arrested, junk calls like that, I don't have time for. So I use RoboKiller. It does a good job of filtering out a lot of that noise.
Are certain countries more vulnerable to cybersecurities?
I don't think so. I think, it's a pretty global attack surface. I think whether you're in China, whether you're in the United States, in Russia, you're vulnerable because you're touching the internet, which is a global surface. There may be more threats coming out of certain countries. You may be more likely to be attacked on the cyber front from an actor in China, from an actor in Russia, from an actor in the United States than you are from Mexico or Spain or something like that. But I think no matter where you are, you're vulnerable if you're using devices that touch the internet. And if you're not, what rock are you living under? Everybody's on the internet now. So it's pretty common.
What are best practices for people, individuals, and businesses? Let's start with
In,
personal individuals.
in general, to keep your best cyber posture possible, it's going to be the simple things that you've heard, to keep good password hygiene, migrate to passkeys wherever possible, use two-factor authentication, use a unique password on every service, use a unique and random password on every service. Password 123, that's not going to cut it, even if you've got an exclamation point in there somewhere. Use a password manager to generate your passwords because it's going to be much better at generating something random. It's going to do a better job of keeping track of your random passwords. And it's going to make it easier when you need to change your passwords. And the unique part of that's as important as the random part of it, because it's not an if question anymore that a service is going to be hacked or a service is going to be breached. And by having unique credentials for every service, you're mitigating the attack surface. So if your Netflix account is hacked and your password is leaked, your DoorDash account is not vulnerable just because your Netflix account was hacked. And then using two-factor authentication everywhere, that really adds an element of difficulty to get access to your accounts. And being mindful of what are the best forms of two-factor authentication is important. The easiest that people use is text message based codes, and those are the weakest. You're vulnerable to your SIM swap attacks, where somebody calls up your cellular provider and says, "Hey, I got a new phone and I need you to port my number over to this new SIM card." And then all of a sudden your SMS two-factor codes are going to their phone. So anytime you can use something more secure, whether it's a authenticator app that's generating the codes or ideally a hardware security key, you're better off. So using strong passwords, using two-factor authentication are going to put you in a much better position than the next person. And that's really what it's about. Nobody's going to be 100% secure, whether you're a business or a person. And it's not possible to be. But what you can do is take little steps to make yourself more secure than the person standing next to you. And if you're a difficult target, then they're going to look for a softer target. And that's really what it's about. That saying that you don't need to be the fastest person in the world to outrun a bear. You just need to be faster than the person standing next to you is true. That applies to cybersecurity. They're looking for soft, easy targets. And the harder you make yourself as a target, the better. And then finally, what I would say is in the same vein as having a unique password for every service and website, I think having a unique email address is something that's often overlooked. It's easy to have your name at gmail.com for every service that you sign up for. And the problem there, beyond the privacy risks of, allowing yourself to be correlated between all of your different services, and have a marketing profile built on you, is the data leak problem again. So if Netflix leaks your account, then your email address gets leaked. And if you have an email aliasing service like Anon Addy or Simple Login to generate a unique email address for every one of your accounts, then you might have Netflix at simplelogin.com, and you might have DoorDash at simplelogin.com. And so then not only does somebody need to guess your password in order to log into your account, they need to guess your email address. And also then when Netflix leaks your information, all they're leaking is your Netflix email address, not your personal email address that you use for friends and family. So that's an overlooked one. It's an easy one. It is time consuming to go back and change your email on all the 400 different websites that you've registered for. But it's going to be worth it in the long run. The ounce of prevention is worth a pound of a cure. So if you can avoid a hack, if you can avoid a data breach, it's much easier than trying to clean up after the fact.
What about small businesses and corporations?
They face similar attacks. I think, depending on what industry the small business or the corporation is in, if they're in the legal industry, if they're in the medical devices or medical industry in general, then they're going to deal with HIPAA. And so they're going to have more stringent requirements to maintain data security, integrity, and privacy. And so, a lot of small businesses in particular, they lean on whether it's Google Workplace for Google Drive and Gmail, or they use Microsoft products, both of which are pretty good from a cybersecurity perspective. They both do a good job of locking down your accounts. When you're using Outlook or you're using Gmail, if you're using Outlook with Office and you're using Gmail, your emails are encrypted in transit, so somebody can't hop in the middle and read your email. And they're also encrypted at rest, meaning somebody can't hack Gmail or Office servers and read your emails in your inbox. The problem there is that they hold the keys to your encryption. So a bad actor at Google, a bad actor at Microsoft, or just an inadvertent leak of those keys can lead to somebody having access to your emails. And the same is true for cloud storage. If you're storing sensitive documents in OneDrive from Microsoft or Google Drive from Google, if there's a leak of your encryption keys, or if somebody at Google or Microsoft has an interest in viewing your data, they have the ability to. The analogy that I like to give is, if you're renting an apartment, your landlord probably has a spare key to your apartment. And if they want to, they can come in. Whether they should or they shouldn't is a different question, but if they really want to, they can. If you move away from these more commonly used services to something like a Proton Mail or a Tuda, which now goes by Tuda, they use end-to-end encryption by default. The difference there between that and Google or Office is that you hold the keys to your own encryption. And so even if Proton Mail wanted to, they couldn't read the emails that are in your inbox because they don't have the encryption key. They can't leak what they don't have, so they can't leak your encryption keys. The same holds true for all of the documents that you're storing in Proton Drive. Tuda is the same. Their emails are end-to-end encrypted. Your inbox is encrypted, and they don't have the encryption key. And the real benefit for either of those services is emails inter-service. So if you're sending an email from a Proton account to a Proton account, or from a Tuda account to a Tuda account, those emails are pretty darn secure. They're end-to-end encrypted, and they really can't be intercepted. They really can't be read by anybody other than the sender and the receiver. But those aren't the only gains. Even if you are emailing between Proton and Gmail, or Tuda and Gmail, there's still gains to be had. Maybe your email is not end-to-end encrypted with the recipient, but your inbox is encrypted with zero access encryption, meaning your inbox is still protected from Proton Mail itself. And so they can't turn over your emails if they're subpoenaed, because there's nothing to turn over other than a bunch of jarbled, encrypted text. And by the same token, they can't have a nefarious actor at Proton Mail that peruses your inbox, and they can't market to you, and they can't scan your emails the way Gmail does to build a marketing profile on you. So for businesses considering moving away from the more often used to something like a Proton Mail, has a lot of privacy and security gains.
What about AI and cybersecurity?
It's a good question, and it's one that's being asked everywhere now. And it really is dependent on which models you're using, which, if you're using a Chat GPT, or you're using a Llama, or you're using Google's version. They are pretty open about the fact that there's no privacy. If you're giving them your data, you're giving them your data, and they have the ability to use it to train their models. Some of them offer you the ability to turn that off, using your data to train their models. And if you trust that, God bless you. There are more privacy focused options. There's a product from LexisNexis that markets itself to law firms that supposedly is better if you're going to use client data. But I think just any individual or any company just needs to be cautious. They need to be mindful about what they're putting into these AI models. Try to anonymize the information as best you can. Obviously, don't give them passwords, and don't give login credentials, or try to not use client names. It's easy to just jump in with both feet. It's an exciting new technology, but especially on the business front, it's important to just be mindful of the unknown. You're not really sure what's going to come from just dumping all of your customers' data into an AI model. And so treading cautiously is definitely the right approach.
Any education sites or place that people could learn from?
Yeah, I mean, there's different certification courses for cybersecurity. One site that I like for privacy specifically is the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I think they do a good job of consolidating a lot of resources for people to learn about different tools that they can use to maintain their privacy, to hopefully dispel the, privacy is dead. Everybody has all my information anyway, so I might as well just keep leaking it everywhere. That's a futile thought, and it's one that isn't true. You can regain privacy in small steps every day, and I would encourage people to look at the Electronic Frontier Foundation site for resources on how to do that. I consider it to be a valuable resource.
What's the cost to set up cybersecurity protection?
That can vary widely. Just in terms of using stronger credentials, unique credentials, it can be free. There are free password management tools. There are free email aliasing services. Most two-factor authentication, maybe with the exception of hardware security keys, are free. Pass keys are free. But as you move more towards enterprise protection, phishing protection, lookout licenses for mobile devices, Sophos licenses, things can get more expensive as the stakes get higher for enterprise use. And so it can vary anywhere from free to tens of thousands of dollars a year, or more, depending on how many users you have, how many devices you have, what your attack surface is. So really just building a threat profile and determining what your risks are, what you're trying to protect yourself from is the starting point to see, what budget is reasonable to protect yourself. But I like to discourage people from thinking about cybersecurity privacy as a cost, whether to a business or to a personal use, and think of it more as an investment. Because as I mentioned earlier, the cleanup side of things on the back end is much harder. It's much more time consuming. It's not just a financial cost. There's a psychological cost to trying to clean up after a leak, to trying to regain your privacy after your social security number has been leaked. And then there's the time investment, trying to figure out just how many lines of credit have been opened up in your name, how many, bank accounts have been opened in your name is a huge time drain. And so looking at it as more of an investment on the front end, doing it in little pieces, it's not a light switch where you're insecure and not private one day and you flip the switch and you're secure and private the next. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so you can do little things every day. They don't have to be expensive and they're going to pay dividends in the long run.
What are the challenges you see in the future in regards to cybersecurity?
As I mentioned, that every tool that can be used for good can be used for bad. A gun in the right hands protects people. A gun in the wrong hands hurts people. It's no different with cybersecurity or privacy tools. VPNs have a good use and they have a bad use. Email aliases have a good use and they have a bad use. VoIP numbers, good use and bad use. And so in terms of the biggest risk that I see coming down is going to be something related to AI. AI does a good job of assisting network administrators in determining, threats that are on the horizon for their network and their users. It does network traffic inspection in seconds versus what it would take somebody doing manually hours or days. It does log analysis in seconds, which would take someone manually days. And all of those are hugely valuable assets in cybersecurity, but they have a nefarious use as well. Bad actors are going to be using AI just as often to try to get around these protections, to try to create false positives for firewalls, for network administrators, and to try to confuse network administrators and the AI models that are being used for good. So I think nefarious AI use is a huge threat that's on the horizon.
Where can people find you on social media or the internet?
I have a website, steelefamlaw.com. That has all my different social media handles, my email. You can signal message me through there. So that would be a good place to start. Or steelfortress.com also has the same type of information. Either way, you're going to end up in my inbox. And I'm happy to answer questions, give guidance for anybody that has questions.